So there you have it. The Premier League has officially come to an end. Match day 38 was, well, it did not give me the drama I expected, but it has come to an end regardless. And now we can discuss the Premier League from, a full blown perspective. First off, Victor, what do you make of the final top five finish and those that are going to the Champions League?
Yeah, it's definitely a unique situation, right? Six teams from one nation in the Champions League, and especially when one of them, shall we say, barely escaped relegation.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
barely did.
kinda. Yeah. I think it's well deserved. I do feel for Forest. You can't help but feel for Forest. I'm obviously happy about Liverpool winning the title. I could have done with City missing out on Champions League, but all in all, I think it reflects fairly well how the season went.
Yeah, fair enough. And still with you, Victor. What do you make about claims that Aston Villa are going to, make an official complaint to the Premier League after some, mind-blowing refereeing in that game against United?
I mean, I know, right? Max and I were just talking about how he blew his whistle too quickly. It should have been a goal for Morgan Rogers. Personally, and here I'm FPL biased because of having Martinez in goal for my fantasy Premier League team, but I don't think that should have been a red card. Yellow definitely, but I don't think it was a clear goal scoring opportunity. I can understand their anger and I can understand their frustration. I don't think an official complaint will lead anywhere, but that's just
Yeah.
me.
I mean, Aston Villa on their part are saying that a referee that has not managed up to 50 Premier League games should not be in charge of such a high profile game like that. And I don't know, do they have a point on that? Knowing the Premier
They,
League, and I don't
if
think
you
it's going
think
to hold
about
what
it,
weight at all.
if you think about it, you would have had like Ipswich versus West Ham to send him to, right?
Yeah.
Or the Brentford, Wolves v Brentford, like less consequential games.
Well, true. Fair point. And now there's something as an Arsenal fan. Let's just go back to a couple years. Wenger used to say, in the nearest future, teams will celebrate, finishing second or qualifying for the Champions League, and he got insulted, for making that quote. And now we saw Chelsea players, on social media dancing and jubilating in the dressing room after, making a Champions League spot. So these days, just how big is a top four finish in the Premier League?
Yes, it's quite huge actually. Especially you can see like even teams like Nottingham Forest can make it. There is like at least I'd say 10 teams that can fight for that 100%. You
Yeah.
can add probably Man United and Spurs in that top topic, but not at the moment. But you can look, and Tottenham are playing Champions League next season, while Aston Villa and Nottingham Forest are not. This is, I'd say, this is not really how league went out, but it happens when you win Europa League. So yeah, there's quite a lot of big teams.
Fair enough. And Victor, let's talk about Salah for a moment. Yes, maybe his goals sort of dried up over the last 2 months, but he did manage to score a crucial one on the final day that saw him equal the record for most goal contributions in a single season. And now he has also won the Golden Boot for the fourth time in his career, level with Thierry Henry. In the nearest future, yeah, how high do you think Salah would rank among the Premier League all-time top forwards, Victor?
I think if he continues at this pace, he will overtake everyone. Um, we need to also think football was in a different era. In the mid '90s, it was very much the British way of playing, just chuck it to the center forward, the big lad in the box, he'll know what to do with it. Football has changed a lot. Football has become so much faster, and the Premier League is at the forefront of that. If you look at playing tempo, you can compare the Premier League to maybe the Bundesliga a little bit, and that's kind of it. So the fact that you have someone registering the same number of goal contributions over a 32 game season as those guys back in the 90s, over a 42 game season, it's just, to me, it's mind blowing, because we never expected to see this. And I do firmly believe, like, if Salah stays and he stays as injury free as he has been, because I always feel like this is the biggest availability, he will be probably, or should be, known as the Premier League's greatest ever forward.
I don't see that happening. Sorry, Victor, but yeah, I think Salah. People still underrate Salah a lot. Obviously, I think the most obvious reason people underrate Salah is because on paper he's not a center forward. So there's a feeling of not wanting to include him among those guys, among the Thierry Henrys, Alan Shearers, because he's not a traditional, center forward. But I think he has done everything possible to show that, he's up there with the very best of the best. Anyways, moving on, Victor, just if you were to pick three answers, the most improved Premier League team this season, the most disappointing and the most shocking team of this season, what would be your pick? Most improved, most disappointing, and the shock, when I say shock, I don't mean a bad shock, like they surprised everybody, they did beyond expectation. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you made that clarification there, because otherwise
we know the
forced
we know
me
the obvious answer.
you would have forced me to pick Forest for the most improved. But I think it's going to sound weird, but if you look at context and the way they have floundered in the previous two seasons, and how they behaved this season, I'm gonna go with most improved for Chelsea.
Hmm?
Uh,
Hmm.
yeah, I know. It's not as big of a jump as for Forest. So, spoiler alert, I'm picking them as the biggest shock, right? Um, so I think Chelsea, if you look at the big picture, the way that the squad has been assembled, the lack of cohesion, the lack of experience of the manager, they by right they shouldn't have been as high as they ended up being. But they somehow managed to overcome a lot of obstacles and a lot of these problems, and they still finished in the Champions League spot. I know it sounds as if I'm buying into Maresca's PR. I'm not,
Wow.
but I don't know. I still feel like they are the biggest improvement. The biggest disappointment, honestly, take your pick, United versus Spurs. The biggest disappointment was the fact that I watched the Europa League final and nobody is giving me those 2 hours of my life back. That's the biggest disappointment. And biggest shock, yeah, Forest. And I don't think I need to explain this.
Yeah, yeah. Good answers anyways. Max, what would your answers be with the same question?
Okay, we stick with Nottingham Forest. Obviously, didn't no one like could expected them being at least in top 10 before the season. Most of you would say they're relegating or close to not Spurs place. For most improved, I'd actually go with Aston Villa, even though they didn't finish in top 4, top 5. They played pretty good this season. Also, they managed to get to quarters in Champions League, and I saw, like, in terms of management, they signed pretty good players at winter for like Asensio and Rashford. They did well, I'd say, and combining like playing in Champions League and still fighting for top 5, especially with this last game unfortunatelyness, I'd say they must have been in top 5, so I'll go with them as an improvement of the season. And I'd say
I don't think you need to pick your disappointment of the
I'd
season.
say
I
it's
think
not,
we all
it's
know
not,
it.
it's not only like Man United being top 15, it's also disappointing like that Spurs being in 17th place and they are going to play Champions League next season, but teams like Villa or Forest that did pretty well whole season but fucked up a bit and then are not making it, and they're playing like Europa League and Conference League next season. So I'd say this is also a disappointment, but obviously Man United are quite sad for me at least.
Fair enough. Just to answer mine quickly, I would not be picking Chelsea as my improvement because I mean, when you have that transfer budget, I think the very least expected of you is the top 4 or top 5 finish, to be honest. So my most improved side of the season is Everton. At some point, they were literally in a relegation battle, And then since David Moyes came, only 5 sides have taken more points than them, this year. Since the start of this year, only 5 sides have taken more points than them. I think Everton actually are my most improved side for this season, taking everything into account. Then most shocking, the side that surprised us all is Nottingham Forest. The fact that we even entertained them in a top 4 conversation along the big side is something remarkable, to be honest. Then my most disappointing side is actually not Spurs, it's United. I mean, Spurs will always be Spurs, in my opinion, so I don't think I give them any credit at all. But for United side that were once at the top or the peak of their powers in English football, seeing how far they've fallen, worst finish in over a century, no form, no top 10 finish, nothing at all. None of their players hit double digits in goals. Everywhere you look at it, it's a shambles. Players are throwing tantrums. Nothing seemed to work for United this season. Even the coach sack did not work. Nothing worked. And even the Ineos family are short of cash. Everything is just a mess. I think it's United for me as my most disappointing team. And unfortunately, Max, I think this disappointment will continue for 1 or 2 more seasons. Sorry.
No, you're good next season.
Okay. Anyways, so Victor, just to wrap up this video, I know it's about 1 year early, but from now, is there any weird or bold claim you are making ahead of next season, just based on a hunch? That we've not seen transfers yet and everything, but just based on a hunch, what are you seeing for next season?
Liverpool are not winning the title.
Well,
This is
It,
not bold.
it, yeah, I don't know. I think it kind of is because everybody expects now with there's going most likely to be Florian Wirtz, Jeremy Frimpong coming in. Everybody's expecting absolute champagne football and blowing sides out of the water. I don't think they will be winning the Prem again. However, I see them in the Champions League final.
mm,
And as for maybe something a bit bolder, uh, I do think either Spurs or United will be just as close to the drop zone next season as they were this season. Either one of them, maybe both.
Yeah.
Max, what are your bold picks for next season?
Yeah, I feel like I bite what Amorim said after the season, and I saw like things that they're going to sell, like players like Garnacho and Höllund, like and Sigrid probably, and I feel like if they can buy at least a players that wanna play for United, and they wanna improve and try to do something. I'm pretty sure they're going to European competitions, probably even Champions League if it's still 5 teams next season. At least I wanna see that, and I feel like Amorim can bring that for them.
Fair enough. Well, mine is just very simple. United will not make top 12. United will not finish top 12 next season. United will not finish in top 12 this next season. And I hope I will come back to this video to say that I said it. I'm so confident United will not make top 12. I said it at the start that United will not finish in the top 6. And this time, I'm going further to say they will not finish in top 12 next season.
So season
So, yeah.
they're relegated, right?
No, I don't know about relegation, but they would not finish in the top 12. And yeah, I think one of the newly promoted sides will finish in the top half. One of the newly promoted sides will finish in the top half.
That is
I
very
don't-
bold.
Leeds has
Coming
the
off
most
the
chance.
back of 2 seasons where all three
Yeah.
sides went straight back down.
Exactly,
that is
exactly
bold
why
form.
it's bold.
I mean,
Exactly.
even saying that there's standard Premier League is quite bold, actually.
Anyways, we'll see. And okay, that's all we have in this video. The Premier League 2024-2025 was a brilliant season. Liverpool are the champions. United and Tottenham, we can all agree, those were the most disappointing sides of the season. And Nottingham Forest, what a ride. Unfortunately, they did not make the Champions League, but we get to see them in Europe next season. In my opinion, it is a blessing in disguise because they have a better chance, of going, further in another competition than the Champions League. I think the Champions League would have come too soon for them, in my opinion. But yeah in my opinion, but they can still be proud of themselves for their achievements. And we'll look forward to next season and we'll look forward to seeing all 6 Premier League sides in the Champions League next season.